Alright everyone, so I want to talk about a couple of topics today, most notably the one that's mentioned in the title, but I just want to clarify one little thing. So you can see I've got some Kamisato Ayato on my account, and he's obviously at Constellation 0 and all of that. Well, that's because I've got two accounts on in my sort of Genshin like playthrough experience. So if you go to the welcome video on my channel, you can actually see that I do mention that we've got like a main account, a whale account, which has got a couple of multiple C6 R5, and then we've got a low spend account, which is essentially the account that you can see right now. And on this account, I've got Ayato, but I don't have him on the other account. And the whole point of having these two accounts is, well, to be able to get the full experience of Genshin Impact. Like, how do you see the world from an F2P lens? How do you see it from a whaling lens as well? So, for instance, take Yamiko. So recently a lot of people have been complaining, she had like the fix to her auto-targeting, and she had also then that fix reverted and all of that. Well, I've got a C0 yeah, and I've got a C6 yeah, so I know what the differences are. I can practically test them. So it always irritates me when I get people in the comment section saying, oh, you haven't even tested it, or you're just talking like, out of, you're just thumb sucking all sorts of things. And I was just like, no, it's like I practically play test these things on with different levels and so on to get the game like from a very practical perspective. This is often why I also like disagree with people like theory crafters and so on, because I think they've got one lens of the game, but I don't have like the full like scope and experience. And once you've got a bigger or like a better scope, you can appreciate things that aren't always there. And that's the whole point of my channel, because I want to showcase sometimes like the C0, like how can you get by, and then also show you the C6. In other words, is this something that you could consider in the future, working your way up with a certain character all the way to C6? Do you like it, or would you say, well, C0 is enough, so thank you for showing me, now I know what I don't want? And if people can get valuable information like that from a practical perspective, not just some people throwing numbers in a spreadsheet, then I'm very happy. So, main topic. Will Genshin Impact ever be a difficult game? The answer is no, and I can tell you guys why. So basically, in like this weekend, for those of you that didn't catch it, I was obviously away. I actually touched some physical grass. It was like a funny little video. But one of the things that I had to do whilst not being on my PC was actually play this game on mobile. And this is where the sort of realization came to me. When you play with the mobile controls and all of these things, you realize that this game can never ever be difficult. Otherwise, Genshin will essentially alienate like a large part of their like community. And this is not to throw shade against mobile players that they can't be sort of skillful and so on. It's just that if you introduce a lot of complex mechanics that take up a lot of buttons, and it sort of becomes incredibly like unintuitive and all of these things, then people would really start to stop it, or they will like start to, or they won't really like play the game as much anymore. And I think that's like the whole point. I think MiHoYo wants to keep that casual experience. And from what I've sort of seen, like if you go into the Spiral Abyss on mobile, because I did it on my other account, it is like way harder than what I'm doing here on PC. I'm just like literally just existing, playing it easy. It is so incredibly fun, like movement left or right, up or down, just being able to quickly dodge. Doing a lot of things simultaneously is easier than it is on mobile. And I think MiHoYo has sort of realized this, and that's why they'll never make the game hard enough. In fact, I think the game is probably as hard as it can be for the mobile experience and so on. And I think also to a certain degree the console experience. And no shade against console players, but there is only so much that you can do in the game, before you sort of start lagging behind PC in terms of what you can do. It's just, when you consider, and this comes from like someone that's also like played console for years and years, you can just do so much more on a PC than on a console. And I think that is the one reason. And I think the other big reason why this game will never ever be easy, be difficult, what am I talking about? Is because of the fact that there are whales. There are people spending money on the game. So if you have someone that's very casual, that spends a lot of money because, well, they can, then I think if you now suddenly introduce a lot of difficult gameplay mechanics where people actually have to think how to play with Yaimiko. They have to be very cognizant of where they position Kokomi, how they'll abuse the auto-targeting on Ayaka, understanding how they can take calculated risk with Ayato in terms of moving and being able to slash. You know, when you've got to really play the game, when the game's almost got like this Dark Souls or Elden Ring vibe to it from the PvE component, I think a lot of whales would just give up on the game because it then would be, I think it would in a certain sense become unfun because now they would have to actually play the game. You can't just get carried by constellations. And I mean, I'm sorry for everyone that I have to sort of tell them about that. Oh yeah, by the way, you can still press Mayato's Q and his E. But yeah, it's like if you make this game too difficult, then there is a large part of the paying audience that will just be sort of put off of it. And yeah, I just think MiHoYo would never ever want to do that. So it's always a tricky thing. You've got to be very cognizant of introducing enough difficult mechanics or challenging mechanics and stuff like that. And I think MiHoYo has very progressively done it. They've added stuff like corrosion. They've added a whole bunch of cool little things, and I think they've tried to keep the game engaging enough. And I think there are certain events like the what it's called Energy Amplify event, which certainly had some difficulty in it. You couldn't just be at the wheel asleep. And I think that was sort of like almost the limit. It's that and the Vagabond event, which are really cool, awesome events. And I think the reason why they don't want to put in more of those events is because not a lot of people play it. Like, I love it. It's such great content for me because I can finally show you the power of like role consolidation, and then you really realize how broken Kokomi is, whereas Bennett and Xiangling literally get one shot. They can do nothing. If they don't ult, they get one shot by the perpetual mechanical ray. It is so good to be able to fully showcase the power of a character at her max potential, and even like at an F2P potential, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, that aside, I think this game will always stay casual, and for me personally, I want it this way because it means that when there are components that are difficult or things that we can consider to improve like the flow of gameplay or your experience, we can still talk about it without sort of literally breaking our arms. And yes, I actually do have like arthritis and stuff in my arms because of years of playing FPS games and these things. So like a sort of Immortal 3 and Valorant, it's like top 500 in Overwatch, all these things. It's like your hands start cramping up, and having a game like this that I can just be way more casual about and perhaps like be a bit more, I don't know, we can perhaps like talk a lot about it. It's got its own unique gameplay flavor in terms of the MOBA aspects and so on. It just really suits me. And of course the fact that I'm a working individual and so on, which is, yeah, it just fits me pretty nicely. But yeah, guys, that is just me rambling on. So hopefully, yeah, if you're still here, thanks for watching. And yeah, do keep in mind, we will sort of showcase these Spiral Orbis soon with this F2P team. Well, not this specific team, but with an F2P-like team, again, featuring Kokomi. So stay tuned. It's going to be pretty awesome. And have a lovely day. Thanks for staying around. Cheers.